So I'm Victoria Valdez. I am Mexican American and I'm a bilingual licensed marriage and family therapist. For a minute, I was like, wait, what is my profession? I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I'm also the owner of Trice Energy Counseling and the clinical director. So I have a team of, we're growing. So I just added another therapist. So I think we're at eight. And we're located in Brentwood. So yeah, that's I think you said introduce myself. I guess I could say a few more things. I'm a mom of three, a professional hat and running a therapist practice and seeing my own clients. I love going Latin dancing, and I also like to write poetry and do spoken word. So I guess some other fun facts is that I'm a huge Spurs fan. And I also love that we have Victor. Anyone else who likes basketball, number one pick? I was like, there's some fun facts about me being Mexican American, and I'm fourth generation on one side of my family, and so we've been in Texas since before Texas was Texas. It was since it belonged to Mexico. Yes, yes. So as a licensed marriage and family therapist, I don't personally specialize in seeing couples. So there's two things here. I have kind of my own niche as the owner of Trice Energy, what the type of clientele that I have specialized training and experience and passionate about serving. And then we have our other clinicians who serve different populations. So I'm going to start from the top down with myself and then just kind of say what Trice Energy does. So I specifically, people laugh that I don't do couples, even though that's my core training. I found out that I like doing the divorced parents and working with their kids versus the marriage counseling part. But I have a lot of training working with children, teens, and adult women with trauma and anxiety and depression and ADHD. I'm neurodivergent myself. And so I really love being able to help other clients who relate to, like, I have ADHD. So uh, I love to be like, hey, I know what it's like. And I have specialized training on helping you navigate that or your kiddo. Before I was a therapist, I worked in foster homes. I was a house parent at the age of 23 with 10 boys. I lived with them. I have so much experience working with kids and families that it was just natural for me to be working with teens and kids. They call me the teen whisperer. So I was just like, I'm like, okay, I love that. I love that. But moving on to my Trice Energy, I was in private practice for a long time, had a dream of going into group practice and just really trying to build the gap, bridge the gap of mental health care and access and the stigma, especially being part of the BIPOC community of how I can't speak for all BIPOC members, but I know Latinos, and again, I can't speak for all Latinos, but there's a lot of shared experiences on the stigma of like, we don't go get mental health. I hear that all the time. Like, no, you can't be talking unless you're crazy, you know? And so really just trying to do the work with the community members of like, no, we can come and talk to someone who's going to hold space for you and really work through these things. It's hard to talk to anyone else, and no one's going to be chismeando or gossiping or telling your stuff, right? So we have such a great team of therapists that work from ages from 3 years old all the way up. We've got people who specialize in the LGBT community, sex therapy, play therapy, couples. So there's just a lot of different therapists that we have at different affordable rates, and we have a sliding scale. And then on top of that, Joseph, I was trying to make it short, but on top of that, in addition to our counseling, we also provide like lens neurofeedback services, immigration evals, and what we call as wellness programming, which is kind of like, it's not the same thing as therapy, even though it's kind of led by therapists, but we do like webinars and we talk about mental health topics and we provide tips, or we do experiential groups so that people that maybe just don't feel ready yet to get in therapy can still get some access to feeling better and having wellness through these other programs that we offer. I think I covered a lot as fast as I could. Oh, I love that question so much. I'd have to say, gosh, I really have to go way back in bullet points. Pretty much what wanted me to work with kids. I always knew I wanted to work with kids because I was a kid that felt like I needed therapy the most. I went through a lot of different things growing up, and just, from undiagnosed ADHD to divorce, poverty, racial, prejudice and discrimination that was traumatic for me living in a small town, and just a lot of things. And I had no access to therapy. in a time where I needed it the most. And I grew up kind of feeling honestly like I wasn't going to make it in life, but I always had this attitude of like, I'm going to keep trying till I die. Like I was like, I can't stop. No matter how many times I fail, I'm going to just keep trying. And that led me to my passion of wanting to let other kids who maybe experience similar things or harder things than I did to be like, look, if I can do it, so can you. And I'm going to do my best to help you through this. And it was during that time that I went through college and I decided counseling. And I worked at a residential treatment center and I saw the counselors there just weren't really connecting with these kids at all. And I was like, okay, we got to do better. And I saw that they would come to these treatment centers and they'd go back to their homes and they would end up right cycling right back in because their families weren't changing. And that's what kind of said, okay, I want to be a therapist, but what kind? I want family training. I need to help the families because me working just with a kid and not working with a family, the kid's getting a little better, but not if the family system won't change. And so that what kind of narrowed it down to where I am now. Great. I love this question so much. So after trial and error of trying to find myself as a therapist and what model works for me, because not all therapists same and not all counseling centers are the same, but my approach and when anybody comes, whether it's with me or any therapist that tries Synergy Counseling, is that we do an understanding that if you want counseling services with us, that the family's part of the package. And it's not if you want to come, it's this is what will happen when you come. And I say that gently, but it's when I talk to a parent who's like, oh, my kiddo is having a hard time at school or this or that, the conversation becomes, wow, what an amazing job that you're reaching out for your kiddo to come to services. And although I'm working with them one on one, we're also going to have family therapy and we're also going to have parenting sessions because that's your opportunity to change and explore and change as a parent so that you can support your kiddo the best way that you can. And then it becomes a conversation. If that doesn't sound like something you're interested in, I'm happy to help you find another therapist who doesn't do that. But that's kind of how we roll because we know it works. Whew, those are some good questions. So I would say, I mean, challenges where I wasn't gosh, I feel like I have to go back, right, from childhood, but I'll fast forward all that. I would say that I didn't have the traditional route of college. I paid for college through scholarships, or I just worked full time and stopped and went again and stopped. I was financially independent since I was 18 years old. Um, my dad was a single parent and didn't really, he tried the best he could, but he didn't have the financial means to support me in the way that I needed it. A lot of other people may have the privilege of having parents do that for them. So I think those were the biggest challenges was navigating that. Then my dad died when I was 21 and I was pretty much just on my own for the rest of my adult life. And I think that was a huge challenge of trying to start my career in my young adulthood and figure myself out. Um, Another huge challenge was the ADHD. I wasn't diagnosed till I was almost 30 and having to retake classes. I took math 3 times in college. I paid for that class. I was like, I should be an expert. Make challenges because I was, the ADHD and not being able to focus. And there was just so much, but I never, like I said, that spirit of never giving up, that mindset of I'm just going to keep on trying until I get it. That really helped me persevere. And then I would say other challenges or turning points and challenges was just doing my own therapy work. When I started actually doing my own work, that really helped change my mindset that I'm never going to give up and I'm going to find the right connections, the right heal from my own trauma. So I'm not being reactive to other people or setting myself up for failure. Really centering around that. And then asking to your questions of times that made me want to or take a break or pause. I would say probably when I had my 2-year-old, I call him my little Rona love. Since I said I had 3 kids, my oldest is 17. Then I have a 10-year-old, and then we started over with my 2-year-old or 2.5-year-old. So I definitely had to take a pause there. It was my first time to have such a young child while I was running a business and all of that. So I think that was a big pause. And then also just learning how to put do what what do they call that? Walk the talk. Is I'm telling clients on how to put themselves first and really put themselves first and still love their families, you know. I had to actually start walking that because I was going to feel burnt out. And so that was like my kind of answering your questions of like pivotal shifts and times where I took breaks and modeling that for my clients and for my kids and for myself. I guess I would say, I mean, I always tell clients, and I have to remind myself all the time of the same thing. I got to walk the walk or walk the talk, walk the talk, right? One of the best gifts that you can give to yourself and the people that you love around you is working on yourself. And it really truly like I was pretty darn good. But then once you start working on yourself, it's like it's like improvement on steroids. Like you know, like then you the amount of reflection that you get and the amount of like help and support that you go, now I know why I'm doing this and this is what I'm going to do differently. And I'm going to set up accountabilities and I'm going to check in with myself and I'm going to have compassion for myself. And I think that's like my biggest, if I can get anyone, I know I'm some biased because I am a therapist and you don't even have to come to me or my practice with, but just finding someone to connect with that is a professional, that can help you hone on you because the transformation truly is generationally transforming. I can't tell you how much I'm improved as a wife, as a mother. I mean, my kids are like, they're like, wow, you know, they're always telling me that like, you're so different now. And I'm always changing to better myself that, you know, I don't want to get off on like a thing here. And hopefully anyone that's watching this doesn't, well, we'll see what happens what I'm about to say. For example, I used to think it was the way I wanted to parent was spanking my kiddos. And it wasn't until I came into my profession that I realized I could do something different. And I came from a home of child abuse and they didn't know any better. And that's what their parents did. And they thought they were doing the best they could. And just the amount of transformation to say that my kids and their kids will never experience that. You know, like that's just like an example of transformation and the example of healing my own trauma so that I'm not yelling and screaming at my kids anymore. Because there was a time I was. And if I healed myself, now they won't do that. They won't do that to other people. And so it's generationally transforming to work on yourself. We are breaking all sorts of things, you know, we are wrecking balls for transformation and healing for the generations to come. So I cannot, like, that's the biggest takeaway. If you know you need help and you know you're struggling, go and get it, you know. I love that. So 2023, I through from January through October, I donated $56,000 worth of services. So 2024, I said, I don't need to bridge that gap alone. And what that means is that I donated of my time through low bono, pro bono, free counseling, free immigration evals, what was equivalent to $56,000 worth of counseling services. So my goal over the next 2 years is to partner with other agencies and community or maybe people who want to donate to expand affordable care to the community members without therapists at least at my site, not feeling like they got to go broke to help people. And so to expand on that is I'm looking for partnerships of people who can fill in the gap financially for clients that can't afford even a sliding scale. I don't want people to feel like they can't afford therapy. And I don't want my therapist team to feel like they can't afford to eat because they want to help other people. And so really building those partnerships with donors and agencies who are willing to pay for counseling services for a client. For example, Joseph, if a client can afford our $50 sliding or can't afford the $50 sliding scale, then a partnership with another agency can pay 25 of their session and meet the client where they're at. And so that's my biggest goal for 2024 and 2025. It's to build strong partnerships to fill in that gap. Oh, I was like, gosh, I guess I already said that. I like going Latin dancing, something fun that people, something, gosh, Um, Maybe, I guess people like the general public wouldn't know this about me, but more on a personal level is that I really like to have a good time. So most of my personal friend groups, I'm like the person that's always doing the jokes and having a lot of fun. I'll be, if I'm at a comedy show, on like the comedy shows, I'll be the first one to jump up there if they invite you on stage. Just very I like to have a lot of fun. Not everyone always gets to see that side of me. So like I said, I do poetry, so I show up at the poetry slam and, did my thing.
Okay.
So I think that would be like, well, you said that nobody knows about me, but I'd say the general public wouldn't know that about me.
Yeah.
Of that, if you are a young woman who is interested in doing therapy, one of my things for you is that I wish someone would have told me this is find a therapist for get into therapy, but find a therapist that you can interview. I get people, I love when young people interview me, young college or high school students, shadow, see if somebody get out there. Uh, you can reach out to me and I'd be happy to tell you. Um, that's the first step to really see if you really, really like it. And if it's something you really, really want to do, don't let anybody tell you that you can't do it, not even your own mind, because I've fallen off 1,000 times and I still made it. So don't ever let yourself or anyone else tell you that you can't do it.